Hello. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Nitty Grit. Hi to all of you on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for spending your Friday with us. I have a very special show tonight. I'm really excited because I have three, not one, not two, but three mighty men, y'all. And let me just tell you, these guys have just such amazing characters. Actually, they are some of the finest gentlemen on the planet, and I want you to hear their story. I cannot wait to have them on. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome them one by one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. John Steinreich. Hi, John.
Hello.
And then I want to welcome Mr. Ray Carrion. Hello, Ray. How are
Yep.
you? And
I'm
then
doing great.
Yes. Last but not least, I have Mr. Samuel Davis III. Hey, y'all. How y'all?
Hey.
Going on.
Y'all good?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Good to be here.
I'm so excited to have y'all on tonight. I mean, being that it's Father's Day coming up, I thought I'd have a few guys. I usually have ladies on here, but I'm so glad to be able to have some gents in the house tonight. So, you guys ready?
Yep.
Hear me good? I want to make sure everybody can hear me good.
Yep. Hear you.
Yes. So I'd love for the people to get to know you from your lips. So first, I just would like for you to tell them a little bit about yourself before we jump into these questions. Are you guys all good with that?
Yep.
You good? Okay, right on. So first, let's start with John Steinreich. Go ahead, John. Tell the people who you are and a little bit about you.
Wow. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very blessed because Chantel is my wife of 25 years. And she's the reason that I'm a dad. That's because we have two daughters, and one is just about ready to graduate high school. The other one is going to go into 7th grade. So we have our little family, and Chantel and I work together as musicians, and she's a playwright, and I'm a playwright kind of. And we have a musical piece that we've done together. And besides that, I'm an author, I'm a public speaker, and I'm also a social worker. That's what I do for my 9-to-5 gig, to make sure that there was some dollars coming into the house when the music wasn't always happening.
Thank you so much, babe, for that. I appreciate you introducing yourself.
Thank you.
I know all that stuff about you, but I'm glad you shared it with the world.
Thank you.
All right, Samuel, you are next, my friend. Can you share with the people just a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. First and foremost, I want to thank you for having me here and being able to speak with both of you on your platform. I've always respected you and John as artists and have enjoyed your music. My wife and I have several times worked and collaborated with you on certain projects. I am so happy to be here, and much respect, much love for that. My name is Samuel Davis III, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Bridge Visions. Our tagline is community engagement and content creation by camera, drone, or microphone. Ooh. Kind of a little thing that we've been doing for a while, a couple of years. And more recently, my wife and I have been through some training. We've been actually working with trauma-informed, trauma-induced, what's the word? We've been working with trauma. My wife recently ran for a public office, and I was being former law enforcement. I had to kind of dust off my law enforcement kit and kind of suit up and be her Kevin Costner to the Whitney Houston that she is as the bodyguard. And we got to meet a lot of fascinating people. I am a father of 3. And as we got to go and meet a lot of people, we realized that a lot of people actually had a lot of trauma that they were facing and dealing with in their lives. And so my wife and I have actually recently become trauma incident facilitators. And that's where we're becoming, we're in the middle of a company rebranding, and we're going to turn into a wellness company, working with other people who are involved with and have had traumatic incidents. And again, I'm so thankful to be here. That's kind of a little bit about me. I got more to say, but I want to pass this mic on over to my boy Ray here.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you and John both sharing. I want to definitely not further delay on Mr. Ray. Let him go ahead and get his in.
No.
Come on, Ray, tell the people who you are.
Well, I got my stopwatch here because Chantel said 1 minute. So, my name is Ray Carrion. I'm from the Midwest, from a big family of 10. So I was number 9. So I have four older brothers, 5 older sisters. So I've definitely seen a lot of parenting and fathering from just from my brothers and sisters. Being from Ohio, I came out here to California, so I know what it is to live in the Midwest and now on the West Coast. I have 4 kids. One is a daughter that she was in the military, in the Navy. She's out now. I have 3 boys. My daughter's Amber. My boys are Rafael, Lorenzo, and Adrian. My other better half of me is Maria. She's here. We're here in Monterey Park. I do work in broadcast engineering, like all your famous shows like Judge Judy and a lot of television shows like Raven, Disney. And in the weekends, I still play music and keep my passion together to keep my head sane from being a father.
Woo! That's a lot. You got some many hats, brother. Many hats. All of y'all. Thank you for sharing that, Ray. So I want to tell everybody before we get into this conversation, y'all know, because this stuff is online, there's always some technical difficulties like we had a little bit earlier. So if we go offline, we will come back, just FYI. But that happens. So I just want to prepare you so you're not like, what happened? Where did they go? That stuff happens. And you guys know Ray and Sam doing production and stuff. You guys know them glitches. They happen. But you guys, I really appreciate y'all being here because I really, really wanted to have a conversation with the men, especially being that it's Father's Day. And I know that all of you on here have played the role as a father, and that's kind of like one of your main important roles in life. Like you've actually helped human life grow up and become somebody. And so I'm just really thankful to each and every one of you for being here and sharing your journey and your story. It means a lot to me. So I just want you to know that, and I appreciate you so much. But without further ado, we're going to jump in these questions. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Don't be scared to chime in. So what I like is just for us to be conversational tonight. So whoever wants to go first, I'm good with it. But the first question I have is that I want to ask you, what's your perspective of being a faithful father? Because that's, for me, there's some spiritual tones to that. There's more tone beyond that too as well, like faith and having faith and all of that. There's just a lot. Faith is huge. And so I want to talk to you all about being a faithful father. Explain what your perspective of that is.
Well, let me make my comment here. While it comes to mind, faith is being hopeful of what you long for and certain of what you don't see. So that's sort of a biblical way of looking at it. And when you're a father, you have to be looking faithfully towards the future and seeing the possibilities for your children. And that is not always easy to do, because when you're down in the dirt, really, in some cases, when situations are hard, when the parenting is hard, the relationship is difficult, or there's school issues or social issues, it is very difficult to see beyond like what's right in front of you when you're facing challenges with your child. And the real issue of being a faithful father is to be able to get past that barrier and then still look down the road to say, no, my child can overcome this. Our relationship can overcome whatever obstacle, and she can be successful. He can be successful down the road.
Nice. Thank you, John. Thank you. What about you, Sam? What are your thoughts?
Well, when I hear faithful father, I think of being full of faith. I believe that the faith that you get, that as a spiritualist, I would consider myself a person who believes in a higher power. That as a man, we have to have a understanding of that there is a higher power than us, and having that faith, you have to come out and you embody that faith, and you pray and believe that you're going to transfer that faithful feeling onto your children. So as a father, being a faithful man, it's one of those things that I have to look at who I am as a man first, and how I set the tone for my children as the standard bearer, so they can look up and say, hey, what's dad doing? There's some bad things going on right now, but dad is doing this. What's he praying? He's not, he's praying to somebody. That you have to set the tone. So being a faithful father, and you want your children to emulate you, and you want them to be able to come and see what you do during those times of stress. And that's what's important to me when I hear about a faithful father. That's kind of the way I look at it, as someone who's full of faith and sets a tone for this family.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for that. What about you, Mr. Carrion?
Well, definitely being raised as a Catholic and, going to Catholic school and being from a big family, you got to have a lot of faith there. And, so we bonded together very much. But to me, everybody, once you're out on your own and you're a man by yourself, it's what responsibilities you personally take on while you're living your life. And myself, obviously, coming out here to California, be a musician and going to school, but at a real early age, at 20 years old, I had a child. So everything changes. So my thing is to be faithful to my responsibility of taking care of my daughter. So a lot of things changed in my life that I knew I had I had somebody counting on me. So that's how I even got into working into TV studios, because I knew the ups and downs of being a musician. Wouldn't consistently have the finances to take care of a child. So that's why I went to work, and that's how I started working, so that I knew I could at least, my daughter can have a roof over her head, food, and definitely everything that a father faithfully should be doing to take care of the responsibility of once a child is in this great dirt, So that's pretty much my faith of taking care of my responsibility of all my children.
I love that. Everything you guys are sharing is so amazing, because, I know, John, what you were talking about earlier, almost hoping for your having the faith that your children can be this, instead of looking at where they are. That's kind of what I heard you share. And, Samuel, you were talking about your children looking up okay, what is dad doing? What is that? Leaving them a role model, legacy. Something to basically grab on to, the fundamentals and the foundations of family that you've set up in community for them. And Ray, you're talking about responsibility. I mean, man, that's everything that you guys are talking about. Just it makes the role of a father shine so much brighter. And I just, just listening to you talk, I'm like, I can totally see all of them doing what they just said. I could totally see that from you. So I appreciate you guys. When you're talking about all of those elements and what you guys shared, there's this thing, I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but they say, I forgot the saying, but it's something to the effect that, everybody can make a baby, but not everybody's a father or dad, right? Have you heard that before? Mm-hmm. That's something that's really huge. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I want to talk to you guys. Do you feel that there is a difference between a dad and a father? And if so, explain. I'd like to just get your perspective on, a lot of people make babies. There's a lot of children out there, but not a lot of children have fathers or mothers, some of them. But, the statistics is really high with there not being a father or a father in the home. And I just really want to get your perspective. Is there a difference between a father and a dad, or is there not? And if there is, explain it to me, because I'd like to understand the concept of, people have babies, but not everybody's a father and not everybody's a dad. What are your thoughts? Who wants to go first? Sam, can you just break it down for me? What are your thoughts?
I feel, this is my opinion, I feel that a dad is a term of endearment. I think that fathers, you can father a child. I think then the definition would be something like, he lost his father at an early age, things like that. It's more of father is more of a, well, it's like this. A dad is an endearment. And I just look at it like that. There's a personal thing when you sit back and say, "That's my dad over there. That's my dad." I've worked in the prison system for quite a few years, and I met a lot of fathers and dads. Some of those dads would just be the dad; they would never contact their children. But some of the fathers actually contacted their children. They spoke with them. I brought them in on their visits. I met their wives. I saw their children as they grew up from young children into young men, and they were there and they saw their father being a father and being that dad that they need. So it's kind of a bouncing between the father and dad term. When I think of dad, I always think of, for me, I say, hey, dad, it's an endearment for me personally. A father can, you can father children all day long, but you can't be a dad to children. And there's a difference to me.
I like your perspective on that. You know, I didn't grow up with my dad being in the home or being around. So like I didn't have a lot of respect for my dad, my father. I just didn't. I did. And so my philosophy of men and fathering and dad, it was off from a little girl. And it took a long time for me to really understand dad and fathering because of what I grew up, how I grew up. But you know, when I start building my relationship with God, that's when I was like, oh, now this is Papa right here. This is the ultimate father. And so I really learned a lot. I had to learn through God's lens of what a father and dad should be versus what I had seen and what I had witnessed, because I just what I witnessed, I had no respect for. And so I appreciate what you're sharing, because that term of endearment, like that gives me warm fuzzies right there, because that's cool. And a lot of times when you see a young girl and she sees, most times she says that there's my dad. Rarely will you hear a little girl say there's my father, right? They're very rarely, but you know, it happens. So anybody else want to chime in on that for a little bit before we move to the next question?
Sure. Well, you got yeah, I think Sam's right. It is a term of endearment. When I think of dad, I think of connection or relationship. And the term father could be, you know, biological or legal or something like that. But I think it's really important to strive really to be both, to have the fatherly qualities of stability, maturity, those type of things, and the sentimental parts of being a dad. And you know, any man would really want to strive to be that way. And you know, the fact that we live in a culture that doesn't value fathers as much as it used to really creates a large social problem. And I'm sure Sam's, you know, having worked in the prison system, as far as I understand the statistics, a lot of guys that end up in there are guys who haven't had a father in their life. And it is crucial certainly for boys to see a male role model. And obviously, as a dad of daughters, it is important to set a good example and having a good emotional connection with your daughter, so that they can actually have an idea of what to look for, you know, when they're out in the world looking, you know, ultimately when they get to be an adult and they're looking for, you know, their own husband in a relationship. So these, you know, both of these areas are important, of being a dad and a father at the same time.
Thank you for that. Those are good. I love that. The connection part is powerful. I'm going to move on to this next one, though. I want to ask Ray this one, because we'll move to the next question. But thank you guys both for that. I want to know, Ray, do you believe that training is like a huge part of parenting? And why do you believe that?
Wow. Well, training, if there's a book you can read about it, I mean, that can tell you everything you're going to be hit at, I think that would be the bestseller. True. I mean, it hits you from all over. My best training, like again, it goes back again to my family. Since I was number 9 and I have 4 brothers, 5 older sisters, obviously I saw them being their parents, my brothers being a father and my sisters being obviously a mother. And you see that, and you see how they got the knowledge that they got from both of my parents and installed into them, and you see what it created. And that's all, like I tell everybody, if you put your brain and keep it as known as you're a sponge, you're soaking up everything every day. And that's how I soaked up what I see in that knowledge of parenting, so that eventually when I was blessed to have my first child, I used all that knowledge that I saw firsthand in front of my face from family to
Mm.
install into my own my child, and starting with the daughter, that was obviously, you know, a challenge because every man would want a boy to be things, but started with my daughter, and we rolled. You know, and to be a father, it's something that's a responsibility that you should be blessed, and it's something that you do from the day one till the
Mm.
day till it's over. So it's not like a
Wow.
part-time job. It's not like till this and that. It is something that if you take it, and if you, and especially if your child is blessed where your child can see and hear and talk and stuff, those are more blessings, because I give out so many props to many fathers and mothers out there that have a child that has some kind of handicap or disability. What more
Mm.
responsibility they have to do, because I know just dealing with my kids, and they're, thank God, we're all born healthy, what they go through. So it is a lot. It's a lot that you want to jump into. So it's, I know it's fun to have a good time after having some drinks with the lady and, you know, thing, but you do got to realize what, you know, the blessing that if you create something, that it is something that you're going to, if you're going to step up to the plate, you better, you know, to go out and have some fun, you better step up to the plate to take care of that responsibility that'll last with you for the rest of your life. But if you do it right, it'll be something that you'll enjoy, and that's pretty much what I do. So I take the ups and downs with that it brings, you know. So
Cool. Thank you, Ray. That's good. I love how you said you again, you go back to the foundation of what you watched, you learned. That was your training that you learned with all them siblings. You had a lot, and I do appreciate you sharing that if there's a manual, like man, we all of us, all of us would have just I mean,
you'll be like,
I'm always
yeah,
like, God, why
yeah.
didn't you just I mean the Bible has some great information and knowledge to help with parenting. But I would also like another manual. Like I wish God would have gave us an A B C D E F G, because I'm that basic. So I'm like, give me a basic, break it down as easy. But yeah, thank you for that. I do. I love what you share, because I do think that our ancestors and that our family members, there was a lot, even for the person who feels like, oh my, like I didn't have my dad around, but my mom, my grandparents, my aunts, there was knowledge and stuff to learn from that. Like they were training me on the go, right? Just in everything they were saying, they were dropping, I was being trained. And that's what I feel like. And so, yeah, I appreciate what you're sharing, that your family really kind of gave you that window of what it would look like. Anybody else want to share about that before we move to the next question? Because we can move on. Okay, all right, fellas, let's keep it moving. The next question I have for y'all, and thank you guys again out there. I know some people are putting in some comments, and we'll get to that. But I wanted to ask you, when you like first had, or before you had your kids, right? When you were thinking about having kids, I know some of us think about we plan to have kids, and some of us we don't plan it like ABC. It happens for us. But before you had kids, did you have any expectations? Like, tell us if you had any expectations before you had kids, and then when you had kids, what was the difference?
Oh yes, I definitely had expectations. Um, I had seen family life growing up. I'm very fortunate that I had parents who were married for, they're still married, 56 years. And before that, my grandparents, they were married for a very long time. But, we were like any family. We had plenty of ups and downs. And I was hoping, and I had an expectation. I said, well, my life, I've chosen some different ways of being. I've chosen, a little bit more straight and narrow path, a little bit more a godly path. And so things are just going to work out, and we're going to have this nice, like, leave it to beaver kind of life with the white picket fence, and everybody is going to be nice and happy. And it's not going to look like the Steinreich family drama. And then, reality hits, and your children have their own personalities. They have their own needs. They have their own strengths. They have their own, deficits and whatnot. And then I found myself like, there's some gaping holes in who I am as a person. And that when I'm, not so solid in myself, then I don't have a whole lot to give, or I'm finding myself grasping at straws, trying to find answers to this imperfect situation that doesn't match the expectation that I'd had before. And that's been hard over the years to try to reconcile. Like, okay, this is the nice, pretty picture box that I would like it to be, and then reality's over here, and maybe I can kind of get them to come closer together with time and be gracious and accepting, when circumstance doesn't turn out the way I want, instead of, crying, woe is me, and oh, how sad, and all that stuff, because that actually doesn't produce any good results down the road. But really, I think having expectations as opposed to hope is not a good idea. Expectations, like, you're sort of counting on something that you can't guarantee, while hope is sort of a faith filled thing, like, I'm going to project positivity into the future, and I'm going to roll with the changes as they come along.
Thank you. Love that. Roll with the changes as they come along. Good one. Good one. Anybody else?
I'd like to say that for me, kind of on a spin with how John was before, about the mother of my children, my 3 daughters, we had expectations because of how I was raised and she was raised. And we always had those conversations about, I remember this happened with me, and she said she remembered these things happened with her, and I don't want to do that with my child. And she said the same thing that she had, and we kind of set a tone of what we were looking for in our way of upbringing our children, and we followed it. We did a great job in following it. The expectations, we knew they were going to come. We knew that they were going to happen. We were ready for them, but it was that we were already, the things that I encountered and that she encountered, we made sure that those things, which were very detrimental to us and affected us and made us say, as we were getting to know each other, if we were to have any type of offspring between us, I know I don't want that. She says she knows she doesn't like that. So these are things that we're going to work on. There's things that you have to learn to communicate. That's the biggest one. Is communication was a big thing. And as we learned to communicate, and as we were raising the girls as they were going up from babies on up, we kept consistent in that level of understanding and communicating. When I was younger, I always felt like my parents never listened to me. So I made sure that I listened to my daughter. I made sure of that. And it was always a big, big thing for us in our relationship. And I think it was still to this day, our lines of communication are outstanding. And it's one of those things that we did on our own. There was no planning to it. Kind of like what Ray said, coming from a big family like that, oh my goodness, I can't even begin to imagine having 9. Woo, that's something else. But what we kept with our 3, or is it 10? Excuse me.
10, yeah.
That's big. And the lines of communication definitely had to be opened up. And that's kind of how the way that we kept and held it together from our side.
Nice. Thank you. Anything from you, Ray? Did you have any expectations?
Everything happens for reasons. So I mean, in a situation, if you're expecting wanting to have a child, in those situations where you get married and everything's a planned situation, you're planning and you're getting, like you said, your dad is getting these reading these ideas of how to be a father, mom's getting all these things, and this is something that you're putting together and you're planning and you're expecting, then a lot of knowledge you would want. But in my situation, it wasn't like that. It was just boom, obviously, it wasn't a child that we were expecting and stuff. And there was no planning, but when it came, it was the responsibility of taking care of the responsibility. So I'll end it quickly. That's pretty much what happened in my situation. It wasn't something that I was planning there. I had a different vision of what I was going to be doing, at least at that early of my age. But once I knew it hit me, then I knew I had to take care of that responsibility to make sure that my daughter had as much as that she needed, and I needed to provide it for her.
Right on. Thank you, fellas. Thank you. That's good stuff, y'all. What I want to ask you next is a little bit more personal. I really want to just connect with y'all just about when you what is one thing as a parent, as a father, when you got your children, or even it could have been that first one, or even the one that you have that's still in your house right now, maybe. What is something that you became aware of or have become aware of about yourself as you were raising your kids?
I'll tell you right now, for me, what I like, I found out as they grew up older, my oldest is 32. I found out that I really enjoyed from about 7 months till about 5 or 6. That was the greatest time for me. And I say that because they were at that point where they were coming and they would walk into the room and their eyes would light up when they saw you, and they're trying to walk towards you and you're hugging and you're loving. So they got to the school part. After they got into that 6th grade and they got to school, they started getting around amongst other children, and they came home with that, mine. That's when I was like, oh my goodness, that's out of my control. I couldn't do nothing about that because they had to interact with other children, and there was nothing you could do. We did homeschool for quite a few years. My daughters were pretty much born England, Germany, Japan when we were overseas in the military. So it was one thing to have children and raise and raise them in your own care, but once they got loose and out into the world, that's when the game starts. And that's what I say for me was the biggest thing. I love children. And now 6 months till about 7, well, maybe 5, maybe about 4 or 5 years old. It's the most wonderful time for being a parent for me.
So you basically discovered that there's a certain period in time in your life that you became aware of, like, I like this particular time zone when parenting.
Love them. Love
and
the
other ones you can give those back.
No. Let's not say that. I wouldn't say that. But those were. I realized that those were the best times that for me as each one grew up. I realized, the next one came in, and as they grew, and the first one left and went to school, and I still had the other 2, and then she came back with that, mine. And I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? But then the next one went down, and they went and they kind of picked that up too, and I was like, oh wow. But I enjoyed that time. It was just one of the best times, the best nurturing time for me. I love raising, nurturing my daughters. It was the greatest time. That to me was the unadulterated, non-mixed with anything else but mom and dad's love. And that was great for me.
Nice. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. But I do want to ask you, like, the other time you mentioned when the kids go to school and they're influenced by the school and different things happen and stuff like that. Like, is there anything that you maybe said, okay, this here is not working and I want to make some shifts here in my parent or help the child in this way? Was there anything that, you became aware of to do differently, basically?
Well, if you ask me that, now, as they got older, we would come home. We made sure when we had dinner, before we talked to dinner, we talked. We had those conversations. Hey, what happened at school today? What's going on? How was your day? Oh, really?
I like that.
How did you handle that? Really? Well, why did you do it that way? Those are the kinds of conversations that I had, because when I was younger, I didn't have those things that were brought forth for me. So I said I always kept that mindset of what I felt like, and I never forgot where I was as a child growing up. Not only that, as I said before, I mentioned working with countless thousands of men and women in the prison system. You watch how they handle their children when they come in for visits, and it reinforces what you see with them. You're like, oh man. I mean, the things that some people say to their children or around their children, it would horrify me. It still gets me to this day, some of those things that you hear. So it's you adapt as situations come. And I always remember where I came from as a child and kept my mind where how I felt, because communication and understanding is one of the biggest problems, I think, for a lot of people. You don't stop and talk. And similar to how you mentioned you didn't have a relationship with your father. I made sure as the man and having 3 daughters that my daughters knew that they had someone that they can come to who had their back and who communicated with them. So it's very important that you sit down and talk. And then there is that thing of that as a young girl is growing to a woman, she has to want to try her little things. Hi, Daddy. What do you think about my dress? What about my bows and my ribbons? Those kind of things are important for her to kind of get her little game going. And I have to be there to sit back there and help foster that in her and that confidence that they need to go out and say that, I don't care what you say because I can go back to my daddy and he's going to love me. Those kind of things, they're very important.
Nice. Yes, I love that. I think that having conversation and communication with this young generation as you're raising them is just so key. If there's no conversations happening, kids are just hopping in and out of your house and going with their friends and doing this, and you only see them in the beginning when they get leave, and then when they come home and not really engage, because that's engagement. What I hear you saying is there was engagement happening, and that was something that was done different from before. So I appreciate that. What about you, John?
Well, one thing I've learned about myself in this process is that when I do not do self-care, I don't have the resources, I don't have the wherewithal inside to actually give the emotional, spiritual help and support that a child needs. And I have to be honest and say, for lots of years, I let myself spin in that regard, sort of like grunting through or white knuckling through because I have so many responsibilities. And what look like in reality is I work hard and put food on the table and, take care of the material things, but I wasn't working so much on my interior. I wasn't working on cleaning out my heart. And because that, I have the inside junk there, well, that creates a block, and it makes it difficult to connect. And it certainly makes it difficult to connect with children as they're growing up because they have lots of emotional needs. They've got their own internal world, and they actually need parents who are healthy and stable inside, so that when their stuff comes out, they've got somebody that can absorb it a little bit, and actually give them positive feedback from it instead of getting bent out of shape. And I've found myself, that's one area I'm like, I did not expect myself to be that kind of person, that I'd be easily bent out of shape over things that, would go wrong. And it's definitely an eye opener for me, to recognize that in my character, that like, no, you got to get yourself stabilized, number one. And number two, you have to be able to bear some of this stuff maturely, and be mature. Just be a man about things. And it for me, it didn't come naturally, shall I say. So not like I was like sort of born with that tough reservoir inside of me. I would have been, if I could unwind the clock, I would go back and I would be really working on the interior, trying to ferret out the stuff that would create emotional blocks between me and my children.
Thank you for sharing that, babe.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you putting yourself out like that. That's what you and Samuel both shared. I really appreciate, because I think we have to really, be aware. We have to be aware of like, okay, what did we enjoy at a certain point in time in our kids' lives? That's something really to just hold on to. And then also, what are we working on for us? Like, what's going on for us as fathers, as dads? Like, what's happening inside of us as we're raising these kids? And I appreciate that, because I really believe in self-care. I've become such a self-care advocate, because what you guys do, bringing in the bacon, and the wife may fry it up every now and then for you, but you work hard and you're actually out there, trying to take care of your family, all of you. And then you actually got to come home and raise them. Like, it's a lot of responsibility, right? You were talking about responsibility. I heard you keep saying that over and over, because it's a huge responsibility. And so I really do want to applaud you for what you do, because it is not easy being a father. It never, like you said, there's no manual in a sense from A, B, C to D. So you're basically almost learning from what you know, or learning as you go. It's one or the other. So thank you guys for that. I'm going to switch over a little bit, because people are commenting, and I want to just share some things that they're getting from you guys and what they're saying here. Let's see. Faithful Father. Somebody put an amen. Hi guys. Show me what you guys got to say. We listening. Come on, Samuel. Come on, number 9, Ray. Come on. Happy Father's Day to you all.
Thank
All the
you.
fathers out there. Wonderful to hear how a man and a father should be from the perspective of a man. Good stuff, y'all. That's funny, John. The Leave It to Beaver coming. Grow with the changes. Parents' communication is key to a child's growth. Thank you guys so much for those comments. So people are definitely connecting with some of the stuff that you guys are saying. And self-care is very important in fathering. Thank you so much for that, Samuel. I saw that. But let's keep it going, y'all. This is really, really good stuff. And I think the people that are watching, I really believe that this is going to inspire and encourage. So I want to move on here, but I wanted to ask you guys this question: like, how does one navigate, in their parenting? Because we talked a little bit, not much. I think Samuel, you mentioned how when they go off to school and come back, there's a different thing happening. But like, how do you guys navigate all these influences that our kids have, and our young adults actually? Because some of you got young adults. How are you navigating? How does one navigate? If you had some advice how to navigate, or what you have done to navigate some of those influences, because there's a lot of them. When you agree, there's a lot, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So, Ray, what are your thoughts on that? How have you navigated some of the influences for your kids?
Well, I'm going to give you different situations because it could be a different situation for everybody. Obviously, I said I have four children. The first two, I wasn't there. To be the relationship obviously dissolved. So with my daughter, we'll talk about that further. I wasn't there to be really just about to her 10 months. After 10 months, the mom took off and we pretty much, it was, she wouldn't let me see my child. I mean, I had to make that effort to try to see my child. She made the effort to make sure that I did get the papers served that I had to pay child support. So I took care of all my responsibilities of doing that, but I wasn't there, even though I wanted to be there as much as possibly. We were in the same state. They put that black wall and you can't be there. So how can you see there and see what's going on and try to navigate? So in that situation, it's different. With my second child, my son, it's the same thing. Once we had the child, it was probably 1 year. She took off her whole thing too. And I never had any influence, even though I tried, or even would fly back to Ohio to try to be something in that parenting and try to see how my child is going. Again, her way to getting back at me was to keep that black wall against. So I didn't have that relationship with her, but I did again have to pay all the child support and all the responsibility that it came with. So finally, when it came into the relationship that I had with Maria and we had our two boys, then it was finally the time that I finally had that opportunity as two parents there, being in their lives every day and installing a lot of the stuff that I was brought up to, the discipline, the religion, the responsibilities of being a good son and a father and stuff, and how to respect your parents, how to respect people, and all those things that I finally had a chance to install and navigate into my son. I did with the last two, and it paid off because both of my son just graduated with high honors. They both do honor rolls. They do very well. They take care of their chores. They're very good boys, and I think they're going to be ready for this crazy world that we're living in now. And you can only guide them so much until you let them out. So every different situation could be different as a parenting. As obviously you see my first two, I had no input, even though I wanted to, compared to my 3 and 4, where I had that input in there. So it's different. And like I pat myself on the back for adjusting to all the things that I had to do. But if you want to be a parent, like I said, you start from day one to the day end. So.
Wow. Thank you, Ray. Good stuff. Someone wrote, he is a wonderful dad. You are doing a great job, my love. That must be Maria. Hey, honey. So I actually met you through Maria, or did I meet you and then find out you were married to Maria? I can't remember which one, but both of
Maria
you I know.
First.
Huh?
Yeah. You knew Maria first from
Maria,
years back. And then you introduced because you got me a show that we did for one of your clients, and then that's how we
Yes.
got our relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So both of you and Samuel, I met your ladies first, and that's how I met y'all. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that, Ray. You know, I do want to do a little PSA right now because I just feel it on my heart. But something I've always wanted to tell, you know, women or men for that matter, but mostly I see it happening a lot with women. If you, and this is going directly to Facebook and YouTube, if you have a man who wants to take care of his children, let him take care of his children. If you have a man that wants to see his children, let him see his children. Now, there are some circumstances that are not safe, and I understand it. And I'm not saying let them see the man, the woman, or the man if it's not a safe situation. But if that issue is between you and that man because y'all can't get along, no, that is not cool. So let people be in each other's lives because these children are growing up and they need their mother and father. They just do. It's too many kids that don't have both parents. And so if there's someone who wants to be involved and it's a safe situation, I would say I want to encourage you to go for it because it's the kid that needs the parent. Whatever y'all have between y'all can work that out somewhere later on in life. But those kids, it's all about getting them the help and getting them the relationships that they need. So that's all I want to say there. But I'm gonna keep going. Thank you for sharing that, Ray. I want to ask you, Samuel, that same question. Like, just what are your thoughts about navigating, helping these children, your kids, your young adults navigate amongst all the influences that have happened in their life? Because you're the one who mentioned like your kid went to school. When they came back, it was something different from what you taught, from what you trained. So what are your thoughts on that? What are some tips that you would give or have to say about that?
Tips, I would say pretty much what I said before. You stay involved with what they're doing. You take them places, you go with them, you go hang out with them, you find out what they're talking about. When they said this happened over there, I say, where? Let's go over there, let's go check it out. Let's go see that place. I had the time to go and be able to do that. And that was why it was important for me. When they had a problem, I was there and I was able to be a part of it. And you have to go out of your way to do it. Again, Ray, I get you, bro, because man, that's tough. I dealt with that situation all the time, seeing people come in and not being able to have a part of their children's life. That is just one of the most heartbreaking things that anybody can go through. And as a man who loves raising children, I feel you, bro. I was able to get in, and when they said that there was something going on, I was a part of it. We were very much involved with our children's lives, and it's important. They need that balance between mother and father, and I want to do my part. And my thing, my relationship with my wife at that time was to both of us, we were going to remember what we said, and we were going to hold strong to what we said and be a part of our children's lives. It's a commitment. As Ray said, all the way from the beginning to the end. Things are still happening right now, but it is a commitment as a man that I have to make, and particularly as the man of my household. I have to continue to follow through because I don't want my children ending up like some of the, I hate to use the term, but some of the women that I ran into when I was younger, and I'm like, oh, where was your dad at? Wait a second. Wow. Oh, no. I sure don't want my children lost that can just go jetsam and flotsam to whoever and get caught up in any game or get caught up in the slickness that the world provides to them anywhere they go. So it's important, and being a part of their lives is important for me.
Involvement. That's what I heard you say. Thank you. You talked about being engaged and being involved, knowing what's going on. So important. You know, I'm very grateful for what you guys are sharing because I believe in all of it. It's so needed, all of it. We're almost at our time, y'all. Really literally there, but I do have this one question I want to ask you, and you guys can each kind of share about this briefly, but I just appreciate what you're sharing, and I think that, you know, it helps me as a mother too, what you're sharing as a father. I think all the mothers that are watching, like, to know that these are the things that you guys believe in. This is what you are about, and how it's so helpful for us to know that part of you as well, even though we've probably seen most of it, but it's good to just hear it. Lastly, I just want to ask you if you, this is kind of a little play on kind of play on words. I'd like to create something. I'm being creative right now, but if you could start a father's club, a daddy's club, what is one thing you would implement that would help men today in their parenting journey? Like I haven't seen a father's club. I'm sure there's one out there, but if you were starting your own, what would you implement, knowing all the stuff that you've shared tonight, all the stuff you've experienced in your own growing up, all the stuff that you see in the world? What would be one thing you would implement that would help other men in their parenting today?
I would say that embrace the idea of every person having his or her own walk. Meaning, I have my walk. That means my children do too. They're not carbon copies. They will have qualities that they inherit from me genetically. They will see things that I do. They will follow some of them. They will reject some of them, but they have their own walk, and that's a challenging thing to embrace when you've been through life. I have a few years behind me, a few revolutions around the sun, so I think I know a little bit about life, and I would like my child to look at my walk, my days on earth, and say, oh yeah, I want to follow that, but they may or may not, or they have different struggles, or they like different things, or they want to do different things, or have just a different timetable of their maturity. And I would suggest instead of trying to cookie cutter with your child, but actually embrace your child as he or she is, and work with them to try to draw out the best in them, and have tons and tons of patience to wait on them as they grow mature.
Good stuff, Mr. Steinreich. Thank you, babe. Thank you.
Mm.
What about you, Ray?
Well, if the question was saying that, what would I implement? If we're going to make a father's club,
if we create a father's club,
yeah, and if I'm going to implement one thing, and I was going to obviously invite other people to be in this club and stuff, and I only have one thing that I had to pretty much tell them if they're going to be a dad is, because you could always say love and everything like that, but it's responsibility. It's and like I said, it goes from the day one to the end. So if I'm going to try to recruit somebody inside here, if you're going to be a responsible person in here, then you're ready from there to love, to create, and do all the other things that's going to come with being responsible. So that's what I would start my men's club with. If I could find some responsible people, then I know they're going to be create love and everything else that's going to be, which is what the meaning of being responsible should be.
Thank you for that. Nice. Thank you. What about you, Samuel?
I was sitting back, and I'm going to piggyback off of something that John said. I think it's important. If I'm starting my men's club, I'm going to start about with self-care, and I'm going to let him and let all the guys know that we all need self-care. We're going out working hard, doing lots of things. We all need that self-care, and you also got to keep in mind, so does she. Just as much as we need self-care, she needs it too. We got to sit back and understand that they're at home with the children all day while we're out making this bacon, and understand that after we get off work with these stressful jobs and things like that, that she's been back at home working, helping set that boundary and setting that guideline, that framework that we both agreed to put together to help raise our children. After I get off work, get my workout in, make sure I come home. Mama, you take a little break. I got the kids. And that's important for both of us to understand. Self-care is probably one of the most important things. You need that outlet. Both of us need that outlet. Not necessarily that you have to hang around each other all the time, but get that outlet. Go hang out with the women for a while. I got the kids. We can go do a double date, but it's important, self-care. And it works on both sides, on father and mother.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Gentlemen, you guys are fantastic. Let me give it up for y'all. So, what I heard was embracing your child, which is acceptance, embracing responsibility and self care. Those are three great tips, y'all, that will take a father's club and it will be transformed. And those kids will go out to do great things just with those three things. I mean, you guys have shared a lot tonight, but those three, oh my gosh, golden, golden. Thank you guys so much for being on. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You guys with Facebook and YouTube, that's our time. We will do a small recap for those of you who want to go on Instagram later, probably in about 10 minutes, 7:15, and talk a little bit on just one concept for those people over there. But we really appreciate you, Facebook and YouTube, for always supporting us on this Friday night, being here with me and these guys. So please, whatever, if you're still there, put some hearts in the chat to thank Ray, Samuel, and John, because y'all brought it tonight. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
We want to thank
much.
you, Chantel. Thank you for making
Thank you.
this forum to help others, and I hope what we all said here can at least maybe help one person to get that little guide, to being a father or a mother in their life and stuff.
Thank you, Ray. I think y'all did it. Happy Father's Day, y'all. Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
Father's Day on Sunday. Thank you, John. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Ray. And as always, Facebook and YouTube, make it a good day because y'all know y'all can. See you later. Bye.